Welcome to this informational webinar about the AIAMC National Initiative 10. I'm Kimberly Pierce Burke, the Executive Director, and I'm so excited to share with you either in person today or if you're watching this recording later, what our plans are for this milestone initiative on optimizing the clinical learning environment for the future. On the next slide, you'll see what we're going to be covering today. We will be looking at the AIAMC and most of you that are joining us as I'm looking at the list of names, most of you are familiar with us, but there might be a few who are not. So I'll give a brief background of the AIAMC and our national initiatives. Then we'll hone in on National Initiative 10, what that's going to look like, why we chose the topic that we did, followed by expectations, some tips for success, and assuring you that the AIAMC will provide great support during the 18-month initiative. This should take about 30 minutes. I hope not even quite that much, and that will give us plenty of time at the end for Q&A and open discussion. Next slide. So who is the AIAMC? We're the only national organization that addresses the unique needs of independent academic medical centers. Our members share a common commitment to delivering exceptional patient care through education and innovation. When we think of independent academic medical centers, we like to use the tricycle analogy, with patient care being the big tire in the front. That's what we're all about and what our focus is on. And the two supporting tires in the back are medical education and research, or medical education and scholarship, that drive that exceptional patient care. We were founded in 1989 and are celebrating 36 years together this year. Next slide. So here's AIAMC a little bit by the numbers. We currently have 71 members from 22 states across the United States. Our memberships are institutional. So if your hospital or health system is a member of the AIAMC, an unlimited number of individuals can partake and engage in membership. These 71 hospitals and health systems employ nearly 11,000 residents in more than 825 accredited programs. Again, that unlimited number per institution. We currently have over 700 individual members in our database with job titles of the alphabet soup you see there on the screen: DIOs, chief academic officers, directors of medical education and research, program directors, residents, and we're really reaching out this year to learners in the pharmacy division. So we'd love to see some more pharmacy representatives and leaders in our NI teams. Our members have 95 medical school affiliations with 57 different US medical schools and over 40,000 licensed beds. Starting for National Initiative 6, we realized that our national partners, many of the organizations, not all, but some are listed on the left-hand side of the screen, have been doing similar work through the years, and we really wanted to have a 1 + 1 = 3 and come together and learn from one another and support one another's work. So starting with NI6, we formed a National Advisory Council, or NAC as we call it, and this picture was taken at NI9 Meeting 2 in Tucson last year, and there's representatives here from the American Association of Colleges of Osteopathic Medicine, the American Hospital Association, ACCME, and the American Medical Association. So these national leaders really help us in identifying great speakers for our meetings and resources that they can provide and add to the richness of this work. Next slide, please. These are our national initiatives through the years, and you'll see sort of the evolution of being starting very focused on items like handoffs or infection control, transitions of care, and then through the years tackling kind of heavy stuff like health equity, justice, diversity, inclusion, social moral determinants of health. And we started in 2007, and from a grant from Health Partners Institute, which is a member of the AIAMC in Minnesota. We were going to do a year-long quality collaborative, is what we called it. At that time, the Institute of Medicine So if you've been in the field for a while, you might remember the quality chasm report and the pretty alarming concerns about patient quality, patient safety, and outcomes. And a lot of effort was going around nationally around quality improvement and patient safety. But what we realized as a board, not one of those national efforts included residents. And if you want to know what's going right and what's going wrong in your institution, ask a resident. They're on every unit, on every shift. So we thought that we could bring a unique contribution to this work of quality improvement and patient safety. So that's how we got started. There were 19 people in that very first initiative. And the picture on this screen is actually National Initiative 1, Meeting 1, that was held in Austin, Texas in March of 2007. And so from those very austere and humble beginnings of 19 people, we've now been doing these initiatives for 18 years. And we had over 300 participants in National Initiative 9. Next slide. When you're chosen to be a part of National Initiative 10, you're making an 18-month commitment. So this, I want to talk about the framework of, what does it look like? And honestly, it's really a little more than 18 months because we'll start with some pre-work. We'll get some toolkits out to teams, some readings to do this summer. So a little bit longer than 18. But at any rate, this work will conclude in March of 2027. I never like to use the carrot and stick analogy because I don't want anything the AIAMC does to be seen as a stick. But I will say the 4 learning sessions where everybody from all the teams come together in person, it'll be 3 in person, 1 virtual this go round. But when we get everybody together in a room, be it face-to-face or in a Zoom room, the energy and the networking that goes on is so amazing. And it just really motivates our teams. You know what it's like. It can, maybe you didn't make goals that you thought you should, and maybe things took a little different turn. But when you can really just kind of get that carrot, that excitement again, that motivation, it helps keep you going. And then of all the teams, I mentioned we had 19 people in the first one. We average about 30 hospitals and health systems, about 30 teams. We then will look at the work you're doing and try to put projects together, and we put them in what we call our cohort groups. And so the cohorts are just 5 or 6 teams that are working in similar content. Like for National Initiative 9, we had a group on climate change, we had a group on curriculum, that kind of thing. And it's those Zoom meetings in the smaller group that's a gentle stick, because let's face it, we're in medical education, we're we're big achievers. We don't want to be the only one in the room that doesn't have progress to report. So it's kind of a gentle stick that you can share with your colleagues the work that your team has been able to accomplish since you last met. Scholarly output is a very important part of the work that we do. While we're really focused on being agile and being the doers and getting things done, at the same time, we want this work to be at scale and to be sustained and to be spread. And scholarly output is a wonderful vehicle for doing that. So at the end of every initiative, we put together a final proceedings booklet that includes all your project management plans and final posters. And the Auctioneer Journal is the official journal for the AIAMC and our national initiatives. They reach out, and after initiative has concluded, and ask you to submit articles to the Auctioneer Journal. So in addition to that, we hope at the end that you'll be presenting at national meetings and regional meetings, hopefully authoring some publications as well. So why the clinical learning environment? The quick answer is because that's what you said you wanted us to do. Last fall, we sent out a survey to our membership, and we had a short list, I think maybe 4 or 5 possible topics for National Initiative 10. And far and away, our members said they want to focus, kind of get back to our roots almost, if you will, and really just focus on that clinical learning environment. And why do we think, why do we agree with you? Why does the board agree with our members and say, you know what, this is what we need to do? The adaptability, the continuous growth. I was chatting with a medical student before we began, and they were talking about some work they did in their PhD, and the technological advancements that are going on right now are mind-boggling. And I can't begin to understand them, but I know we have to wrap our arms around them. as an aside, I'm working with the AMA right now on the national board with them, choosing projects for their precision medical education $1 million grants. And there's some really cool work going on, and we want to be sure that we're at that pace and even ahead of that growth, if you will, to prioritize patient safety and interprofessional collaboration. That's the AIAMC love language. I mean, that's who we are. That's what our national initiatives are all about. They've always been around interprofessional teaming, getting the right people around the table. And again, that big tire, the top of the start of the tricycle is the patient. So that's what we're all about. And I know physician well-being and provider well-being, we all kind of roll our eyes. We get burned out talking about being resilient, but it's very, very important. We all know that how critically important it is to the individual, to the patient, to the system. And so really by investing in the clinical learning environment, it's not just about meeting current challenges, but also really leading the transformation of healthcare. In our next slide. Here are some sources. I mean, these are just a few, and these are included in the call for applications document, which is on our website, so don't feel you need to jot any of this down. If you don't find it quickly on the website, just reach out to Mindy or me. We're happy to send you that call for applications document. I included here because I want to express the thought that went into why the clinical learning environment. And you see obvious reference to ACGME, but then you're seeing quite a few other references as well. I would suggest you, if you've not already, to read some of these articles and to keep this on hand in case it would help you make the case to your leadership to be a part of National Initiative 10, that, boy, this is really well documented in the literature of the important work that we must do to optimize the clinical learning environment. Next slide. I feel it's very important. We're always very transparent what this initiative is and what it's not. And I'll go to what it's not. It's not about the clinical learning environment review. We know that last fall, the ACGME had a little bit of shakeup of leadership. The whole CLEAR program, we're not really sure where that's going to go. But what this is a learning community that we are devoted to not only envisioning, but developing the clinical learning environment of the future. These are some of the cohort focus groups we hope will come to being. I've already mentioned AI, but fulfillment, feedback, professionalism, transitions. This will be determined by what you put on your application form and what area you choose to focus on, but we're hoping these will be some of the groupings that we'll put together. And it's based upon the literature and modeled by multiple leading thinkers. Yes, of course, including the ACGME. They accredit our programs. They're very, very important, but also the Gold Foundation, the Macy Foundation, New England Journal of Medicine, NIH, Academic Medicine, and others. All those references you saw on the prior slide. That's what we want NI10 to be all about, to support those learnings and those leading thinkers. So next slide. Here's our goals and outcomes. I certainly won't read through this. This also is in the call for applications document, but important that we want to assess and benchmark, develop, implement, and measure. We do the PDSA, we engage, we want to have measurable outcomes, we collaborate together, and again, that scholarly output to author and present is very, very important. Next slide. So there are a couple things that are different. Some of you, I'm looking at names that are joining us today. Many of you have been in prior national initiatives, so this will pique your interest. Others that aren't as familiar, we just want to be sure we're being very clear. There are a couple changes. The biggest one is the first bullet. For 18 years now, we have had those small cohorts meet every month. For years and years and years, it was on the telephone, teleconference groups. And then during COVID, of course, when we all went virtual, we started meeting in Zoom. This go round, we're going to try every other. We want to make, well, we want to have regular touch points with all of you, but we also recognize you have a lot on your plate. You all have a lot going on, and a monthly commitment, if that impedes somebody from participating, then shame on us. We need to be we need to make this workable and manageable for everyone. Also, just from a very practical perspective, some of our teams in the last couple initiatives, let's say they would meet on the third week of the month, and their Zoom cohort happened to be the first or second week of the month. They hadn't had their team meeting yet, so they didn't really have anything to report on progress. So we really think by meeting every other month, it will be a manageable lift, and every team will have progress to report, which makes us all feel so much better. There are a number of reporting mechanisms and toolkits and resources that I'll cover on a future slide. And these have been developed through the years really to be helpful and to build upon one another. Like we start with the project management plan, and then at meeting 2, when you do your storyboard, you can just get this set off of this section of project management plan, put it on your storyboard. And while it was designed to be very intuitive and build upon one another, we heard in the last initiative, maybe some of this is a little redundant. Maybe some of it's a little repetitive. So the first job of CAIAC, the Committee on the Integration of Academics and Quality, the steering committee for NI10, one of their first asks of that committee will be, we're going to share with them all the reporting mechanisms and ask them to streamline it and hopefully decrease it a little bit. So again, trying to make this a manageable lift for all of you and nothing that's burdensome, something that's helpful without being burdensome. For years, well, actually from the beginning, meetings 2 and 4 are held in the spring in conjunction with the AIAMC annual meeting, the thinking being most of our members were going there anyway, so we would tag on a couple half days for this national initiative meeting. Through the years, meetings 1 and 3, we switched from 2 half days to 1 full day. We thought that would increase attendance, particularly residents, maybe with having to get less time off work. It had the opposite effect. Our attendance went way down. We found that it was difficult to get approval for travel funds for a one-day meeting. Well, why can't you just do that virtually? So meeting 1 this fall will be October 16 and 17, 2 half days at the Omni Chicago, and I hope to see many of you there. We are going to do meeting 3 virtual, which we've done a few times. And this is also, again, about the lift, but this time it's not just your time, it's the money and trying to save you the travel time and the travel dollars. So meeting 3 will be virtual. All right, next slide. These came right off those project management forms. So I did not create this. Prior leaders of national initiative teams created this. And these are just some both expectations and just some early tips for success for you to think about. This was from the question on the project management plan about lessons learned. What did you learn? And so we compiled this from the lessons learned. The engagement and alignment is so important to engage with your team. I've had some questions about size of the team. I would recommend having a core team of maybe 4 or 5 people, and then having a larger group that core team maybe meets every month, and then a larger group maybe every other, maybe quarterly. And it's interesting because on your application form, we ask you to list the team members so we can, start getting them in the database and all that good stuff. And then after meeting 1 in October, we ask for your final list of team members. And there's always a lot of changes because you realize as you're doing these toolkits and readings and you get together at meeting 1, you realize, oh my gosh, we've got to have so-and-so at the table. We didn't include them. Or, this person I thought would be core, but maybe they would be more supportive, on the periphery. So realizing who those players are and keeping them appropriately engaged is super important. C-suite, I cannot stress enough. From the very beginning of time with our national initiatives, we have incurred, and I think why they've prospered and we're still doing it years later, your project must align with your institution's C-suite goals. So find out what the strategic goals are of your hospital, your health system, and figure out a way that your NI10 project will help meet that goal. One of our toolkits that I sure hope CAIAC keeps is on talking to your C-suite, talking points. They speak a different language than we do in GME. And so how to assure them that, we are not just a cost center, we're not just a medical education program over here that you're getting less dollars from CMS from than you did a year ago, but we are really a strategic asset and we can help you meet this goal. And keep in mind too, engaging and aligning the target audience. We think about the clinical learning environment. Obviously, we think about residents and learners and faculty, but who else? Who else will your work target? Be sure that you're engaged and aligned with them. It may be a community member that's on your team. To have clear goals and tasks with timelines and deadlines. I mentioned the core and the larger team. Keep those regularly scheduled meetings. Keep people informed. Keep focused on the long goal. Progress is rarely a straight line. In addition to team members changing, if you asked a prior NI leader how their project was envisioned at the beginning and what it ended up being at the end, it could look very different. That's okay. That's actually great. That means your PDSA cycle worked and you learned something and you went a different direction. But keeping and those in-person meetings keep you motivated to focus on the long goal, but realize that just listening and communicating is super important. Something we often say is don't boil the ocean. We all want world peace and we want everything to be perfect, but what can you realistically accomplish in 18 months? Appropriately size the project to your environment, the resources that are available to you. Choose metrics that everyone understands, including your C-suite. We want everyone on the same page and working off the same playbook. And don't think of the national initiative as a project with a beginning and end. It has a beginning, but in March of 2027, it doesn't end. You do the handoff. Here's the work we've started over the last 18 months, and someone maybe from your core team, someone maybe new, will champion the work and will continue it, will sustain it, will spread it. Maybe you start the project in internal medicine, and then it gets sustained in the general surgery and ortho and family med. You spread that work so it doesn't end. And finally, do be agile. I mentioned that the project might morph into different areas, and team members are going to change. Team leaders might change. I mean, we have folks on the call today that in the last year have moved from one AIAMC member to another. We have some that are going to recruit AIAMC to be a member, Adrian. So I think times change, people change, and we have to be agile and be able to pivot with that and consistently adapt to new findings. We might think we know what that measurement tool is going to show, and when it doesn't, we have to adapt and we have to say, okay, what direction are we going in now? So next slide. These are just some of the tools and the resources that we provide to you. I'm not going to go into great detail because, as I've mentioned, we are going to ask Kayak to look at all of these and perhaps streamline some of them or combine some of them and put them together. But I have this slide to assure you that I mentioned AMA and their precision medical education. I also worked with ACGME years ago when they did Pursuing Excellence. And I chuckle because AIAMC members that are chosen for those other national wonderful collaborative efforts will come to me after and say, they don't give us anything. They ask us to come up with a plan and there's no template. Like how, what are we supposed to do? We give you the templates. We give you the toolkits. We do ask that you report your progress to us. We're going to do that in such a way that, again, we're trying to be less burdensome. But if we see, for example, on the roadmap, which I see a typo, it should say roadmap to 2027, my bad. But if we see that a number of teams are struggling in a certain area, we'll do an educational webinar on that. So there's always a method to, why we provide what we do when we do and what we ask what we do when we do. And then human resources. Mindy's going to be your primary point of contact. She is the queen of herding cats. She does it beautifully. I'm here to be a resource to you, as is everyone on the committee, the Kayak, the steering committee. Those are all your colleagues. Those are all AIAMC members that are, in the initiative too. So they really understand what you're going through, and they're a great resource. Our board, of course, and then those National Advisory Council members I mentioned. It's really cool when you're in the in-person meetings in your cohort, and there's maybe 12 or 15 people in the room, and one of them is the vice president of the American Hospital Association or the American Medical Association or ACGME. I mean, just to have that really hands-on input from them is a wonderful resource that this initiative brings to you that you wouldn't get in another kind of collaborative. So next slide, and I just have a couple more and we'll open it up to Q&A. So if you were with us in New Orleans for our annual meeting in March and were able to stay to the end, first, I thank you for doing that. But secondly, we had just the best time, thanks to Dr. Diana Singer and Caroline Diaz, who are in the blue t-shirts from JPS Health Network, one of our members in Fort Worth, Texas. They put together a Jeopardy game that was so fun. And it was just a really cool way to learn about the history of the AIAMC and our national initiatives. And it showed how competitive people in medical education are. It was really funny to see the teams, working to get their answers. The coaches are members of our board. Goofy me there with my head coach and my little ball cap on, and then Mindy's on the left, she was referee. But it was a fun time. It was an educational time. And at the end of that, they distributed a challenge coin, and you see a picture of the front and back of this challenge coin. And I was not familiar with what a challenge coin was before Diana and Caroline put this together. What it is a small medallion that represents an achievement, membership, or affiliation to a specific group. It's often affiliated with the military, and like being a part of a certain unit or having gone through a shared challenge together. So if you have being given a challenge coin represents camaraderie, unity, it proves a membership of a certain group and honors the actions of those who receive them. So if you missed the end of the meeting in March, if you couldn't join us at all, I don't have many, but I do have some extra challenge coins that I'll be bringing with me to Chicago in October, and I'd love to give you one if you don't have one already. So next slide, because we hope you're ready for the challenge of NI10. I thought I'd end my prepared comments today with these quotes, and I hope they inspire you. These are much like the prior slide on the lessons, or I'm sorry, on what lessons learned and tips for success. This also came directly off of the NI9 project management forms, the specific question, what they were inspired by. And I read through all of them, and two things really stood out: residents and patients. So the leaders for NI9 said what inspired them so much was patient gratitude and the patient stories, and how it just compelled them to want to do a better job for their patients. And then also the residents. We all do what we do because we love residents. I mean, I've been away from the trenches of med ed for over 20 years now. I've been with the AIAMC, and so I'm a little more off the periphery. But July 1, I still feel like it's Happy New Year time. I think, it's just in our blood, and the residents really inspire us. And the residents in NI9, their profound sense of renewed meaning in work, to take ownership of their learning, to advocate for systemic change. Remember, NI9 was on the social determinants of health, to collaborate across disciplines. And then this last quote, I just love, the drive and dedication of our learners. They understood the why behind our work, and we feel confident that we've inspired a future generation to continue to uphold our vision for an equitable future of healthcare. And if that's not the clinical learning environment, folks, I don't know what is. I mean, that just says it all so beautifully. So the next slide, we'll open it up now for Q&A. If you'd like to answer a question orally, just remember to unmute your audio. If you're more comfortable putting something into chat, we can address that. I will quickly, while you're thinking of your questions, I'll share. I love putting the slide deck together. It's so fun to look back at old pictures, and the top two are more recent. Top left is NI9 meeting 1, and top right is NI8 meeting 3. Both of those took place at the Omni Chicago, where we will be this October. And then the bottom are from, I can't say I have a favorite initiative, but NI5 on health equity probably touched me particularly. But you have to remember, that was 2015. We tackled health equity. Everybody does that now. That's 10 years ago. We were talking about some things that a lot of people didn't talk about openly, and I just love that initiative. On the left is Advocate Illinois Masonic, a member of ours from the Chicago area, who collaborated with their LGBTQ community and just had wonderful results come out of that work, and testing increased and forms changed, and anyway, and that was 10 years ago. On the right is TriHealth from Cincinnati, Ohio. They wanted to tackle food insecurity. and did not, the GME office did not even know that marketing or another department already had a mobile market. And this is typical. Like, we're very siloed. One of our toolkits is on finding out what other efforts are going on in your institution. Well, they found out there was already this mobile market, but it was not successful at all. So instead of going into food deserts, they brought the mobile market into the resident-run clinics, and it was a huge success. So two cool things there. I'll have Mindy go to the last slide so you have it for a moment before we take the deck down. And this is available to you. Obviously, we're recording this session, but if you would just like the deck itself to share with your team, just reach out to Mindy or me. Our contact information's here. The applications are due June 2nd. And so I note our time zones here because up through the beginning of June, I'm based in Phoenix, Arizona. So I'm in Mountain Standard Time. So I'm with Greg and others, on the West Coast. So if you're, kind of west of the Mississippi and you want to reach out, Mindy is in Florida, Eastern Daylight Time. So she's 3 hours ahead of me right now. And so one of us should be available just about any time of day. We do hope you'll reach out. We would love to hear from you. So we'll take the deck down, and I would love it if you're comfortable doing so, to turn your cameras on, because it would just be great to see everybody. And let's see what we have in chat. Oh, Joy. Joy says, always, Joy from Ohio Health, always ahead of the curve. Yes, we were doing it before it was cool. You got that right. Eric from Novant Health. Can you talk more about the addition of pharmacy? Thank you. I did just sort of touch on that, and I should have explained more. So the AIAMC board recognize, part of our strategic plan is we recognize that the AIAMC, because largely of these national initiatives and the interprofessional teams that we have had over the last 18 years, we are really uniquely poised to embrace all the learners in our clinical learning environment. There's really no other national organization that has that same ability. Now, GME, let me quickly, will always be our home and the focus of what we do and what we're devoted to. Much like the theme for NI10, we're not going to presume. We asked the membership. So we asked you last year. We sent a survey out to the membership of all the learners. First, list all the learners in your organization. Of course, there's some just have a few, some have, a dozen or more. But of all the learners, with whom would you like to collaborate more? What would make your medical education experience more valuable? Who do you want to collaborate with? And much like NI10 being the top choice, clinical learning environment being top choice for NI10, far and away pharmacy was noted as a group of learners that we'd like to work more closely with. So we're kind of taking baby steps. We're not going to just cast a wide net and say, come all your learners, come nursing, come pharmacy, come radiology. We're going to start with one group. And so, and it will be pharmacy. Now, again, most important thing, your project must be aligned with your strategic goals of your hospital and health system. If pharmacy could be a part of that, that'd be the icing on the cake. We'd love to see that. The participation fee for the being in the initiative always covers the team leaders registration at meetings. We will also waive registration for a pharmacy member of your team, just to really start developing those relationships. So that's just something on a kind of very local level of you engaging more with pharmacy. Nationally, we're in discussions with leaders of national pharmacy groups and that kind of thing. So that's just a little bit more background on that. So thanks, Eric, for asking the question. And I hope it answered it, Adam. Thank you for the thumbs up. What else? Questions or even comments from prior leaders on, I'm sure more so than me, your colleagues would love to hear from you, like what made it a good experience and, what you learned from it, and any pearls of wisdom to share as people are putting their applications together. And I'll call on someone, so someone is really volunteer. Jay, I'm going to pick on you because you're one of my favorite people. You're all my favorite people. But Jay Jimenez from Advent Health Orlando. You've been
So
involved in what, two or three now?
I'm gonna, I'm going to take, I'm gonna take it and I'm going to punt it. So I have Alex, Legioness in the room with me. So
Oh,
she's been a
hey.
participant in, I think the
Oh,
last, what, two or three?
yeah.
Okay.
Oh, we missed
So I
you
was just
in
asking
New
her,
Orleans, Alex. We missed seeing
yeah,
you
so I was
there.
just,
So yeah,
so
Alex, any words of wisdom to share, like
any words of
things to think
wisdom?
about, or what you've learned from a prior initiative? Anything.
Prior initiative, I think some things that have worked for me is always making sure that you work closely with your team. Like the team meetings are so crucial, because like within your own team, and then of course within AIMC, that's a whole other level too. But even within your own team, what I noticed in the first initiative that I was a part of, we had regular team meetings, and I think that helped keep the needle moving forward. In this last initiative, we didn't do that quite as much, and I'm not sure. I think that it would have been helpful to have more meetings, so that we could work together and figure out where were the barriers and how could we work together to address those barriers.
Mhm.
Um, then I would say within AIMC, use your team. In our first initiative, we did so great right up until the very end. We were like stumbling at the finish line. It was so devastating because it was literally just the data analysis piece that we were struggling with. And one of the members within my team, I think it was Brent, I don't know if he's here today, but he helped. He saved the day. He came in and said, I'll analyze your data for you.
Oh,
And
wow. Is
back
that
to
Brent
us so that we
Stansfield by
could,
chance? Brent
yeah.
Stansfield, yeah. Oh, he used to be with Heidi in Michigan. He's now,
Yes,
I
in
think, in
Michigan.
Texas. But yeah, see, and so yeah, that's wasn't even someone from Florida. They were from Michigan, but they were in that small cohort and said, "Hey, if this is lacking on your local team, I can help out." So you really do become like those small cohorts really become like I don't want to get too, granola here, but they're like little support groups. They really are. So, very helpful. Thank you.
I,
Thanks,
I,
Al.
I'd also add just briefly the, how important you kind of touched on it, but just casting that wide net of those that are included in your institution. I know working with Alex and Dr. Isaiah, who participated at least in the last one, sometimes they would come up to me and they're saying, "Hey, we have this idea or this thought. It's coming together, falling apart, coming together, falling apart. How do we, who can we include to kind of be that glue?" And sometimes it's just brainstorming from my standpoint of, "Hey, have you talked to this person or that person? I've heard through the grapevine that, this CMO is actually working through, something similar." So I think just being able to have those brainstorming sessions with, leaders in your
Mhm.
organization, random people that
Mhm.
are working with, I think it really does a huge, it does a huge service on the planning end, especially.
Yeah, very well said. Thank you. Alex wants to know what types of AI meta use cases do you anticipate being most relevant? Huh? It's a very good question that I don't know if I have the answer to. um, Anticipate mentor. Oh yeah, tech advisors would be very, very important. And then I will come back to that. And Dania from St. Luke's, are we able to extend the application due date? Some of those still gathering. Well, actually, Mindy and I already talked about this because, as is the case with every everything. Usually you don't start getting things till the day of the deadline. And then I told Mindy like her inbox was going to be, deluged on June the 2nd and with applications and with requests for an extension. So, um, I'm not really ready to give like sort of a drop dead date yet, but if you've worked with me, I will work with you, and we can if really push comes to shove, we can extend it, a few days or so. So even if um, the application would need to be amended a little bit, that's okay. What's super helpful is just if we have a sense of the number of teams and then where those cohort groups might fall out or might conform together. That's really why the date is important, because then it helps Kayak know what kind of toolkits to get out to you. So Alex, your question about AI, I'm not sure what our members will be coming up with, but I know that a lot of our members, say like around assessment, they have some great tools. The tools don't always talk to each other. And so how do we sort of connect those and make it more individualized to the learner is going to be super important as well. So I mean, that's most of what I'm reading about on these other LOIs for AMA. And I don't know if anyone from the group is thinking that direction or has something to share, but I would imagine feedback, assessment, and yes, mentoring on the tech would be super valuable. We have 24 people with us today with probably 24 different levels of tech expertise in their own institutions. Some hardly, not much, and some very robust. So yes, I think having that, Alex, would be fantastic. Other questions or comments? Does anybody have an idea of what their project might be around or about that you'd be willing to share early thoughts and help get the juices flowing of others joining us?
Yep.
Adrian?
So trying to kill three birds with one stone. Our PEC is particularly interested in measuring accountability and joy in practice again. So that's like that's my professional identity formation thing right in a nutshell right there. So I was going to try to design something based around the PEC needs for the upcoming academic year and roll it out as like a revision or an augmentation of what we already do. That way we have baseline data from what we've already done and compare it to what we are going to do. I happen to notice the word anticipate was showing up a lot in that application. So everything is, because then it gives me some wiggle room to change things, but I anticipate doing XYZ. I anticipate measuring XYZ. I anticipate my data streams will be this, that, and the other, but I can only change it.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. You can change that. Now that sounds very exciting. I know we have some folks on from Ohio Health today, and for NI9, they did their launch of their community care center, and that was something they'd already been working on. But the structure of NI9 helped them get to the finish line, and what Adrian's describing is the same. So think about what work you're going to need to be doing anyway, and how can this help you structure and have that support in getting that done. Sometimes it's not like a brand new, we want to launch this brand new thing. Oftentimes it's just, what, we know we need to do this anyway, and the timing and the support of the initiative might really help us get there. So it's great. All right. Anything else before we adjourn today? Greg, I did see your note, and I'll respond after. All right. Well, as I said at the top, we start on time. We try to end a little early. I'm going to give you 15 minutes back on your calendars. I want to thank you so much for joining us today. I hope to see you all in October at our first meeting. And again, do reach out to Mindy and me with any questions you may have. And for those that are watching or listening to this recording, the same certainly goes for you. We would love to hear from you and look forward to receiving your applications. Thanks, everyone. Take care.
Thanks.